Flex, also known as Pardon My Pretty on Instagram, and you are now tuned into my YouTube channel. I want you to watch, comment, and subscribe. If you have any comments or concerns or things that you want to see, make sure you leave them in my comment section so I can pay attention and give you what you like. Now, don't be critiquing me and telling me what to change if you're not subscribed to my channel to see when I do it the way you like it, okay? Okay, so for the most part, we're just gonna be learning my quick everyday glam. It's about 30 minutes. I like to call this my semi-full face with my signature part of my pretty pink lips. For the most part, it's super simple. I'm gonna be giving it to you step by step. It's a really easy, flawless look that could be done by a beginner, intermediate, or advanced makeup artist. As most of you do know, I teach makeup and I am a full-time makeup artist. So I'll try to be as elaborate and detailed as possible. Whatever level of makeup artistry you're on, this look is achievable. And I also use a mixture of high-end and drugstore products, so I think everyone can benefit from it. I don't like to hold people because I don't like to be held. So without further ado, let's get into this look, girl.
So let's dive right in. As you can see, I've already done my eyebrows. I've also prepped and primed my skin, hence the off-white ashy look we're getting. Next, we're gonna go ahead and blend out all of the product and concealer around the eyebrows. This cancels out whatever halo effect could possibly come once we add our foundation to the top. Very, very important. Now we're going to go into foundation. That is my favorite foundation brush, or one of the brushes that I use. I like to apply it to all of my problem areas first, primarily under the eyes, on the middle of my cheekbones, and around my jawline. I'm not sure about the rest of you ladies, but I have really problematic skin down there. So I like to make sure that my product is going wherever my problems are, so that once I blend them out, I can have a natural skin-like finish. Once I get that done, I add it to the perimeter of my face, starting with my forehead and around the outskirts. It's really pretty simple. I like to use a press and wipe motion to blend in all of my products. This allows me to layer things on seamlessly. A lot of times when I'm doing foundation with a round brush, it's just to buffer it out. And I don't really use a sponge for the first step of my face anyway. I'll show you how I use my sponge in the later part of the video. But right now, the motion that I'm doing, it could be familiar with stippling as far as the pressing goes, but there is a light wipe that is creating a very smooth finish. And it also allows me to get a flat surface, so that when I layer my product, no one area has more than the other. And as you can see, I like to get my neck as well. Like I said, that area of my face is very problematic, especially recently. So full coverage is something that I have to have all over those areas, or else it'll just look like I'm wearing a mask. And I mean, let's just face it, that's not cute. So I am going to leave you guys with all of the exact brushes and products that I did use in the comment area below, or I think it's called the info area, I'm not sure, but I'm going to make sure I leave you guys with the products, especially the ones that I'm not really going into detail about. I kind of want the video to be a technique video and not so much of a product video. But if you guys do want to see a product video, let me know and I'll make sure I cover one of those really soon. Right now I'm doing my second layer of foundation. As you can see, I'm just really doing the same motions. I'm just making sure that my problem areas are getting a lot of attention, because a lot of times people think that the amount of product is what gives you the finish that you're getting, and it's really the application of the product. So you can use as little or as much as you like. As you can tell, I start off very light and I add. I'm not heavy on product, but I like to make sure that I'm full coverage. So I know it sounds weird, but full coverage to me is just making sure that I apply the product fully all over my face. I love to make sure my eyelids have full coverage as well. Some people say that you know, coverage on your eyelids give you greasy eyelids, but I prefer greasy eyelids over dark eyelids. And right here you see that I'm using my buffering brush, which is a tool that I mentioned earlier. I like this brush because it gives me a nice smooth finish, and sometimes I do like to dampen my brush. Well, mostly I dampen my brush because a lot of times when you're using a thicker foundation, especially like Juvia's place, it can get a little cakey if you let it dry out. This dewy set allows me to add moisture to my face, and moisture obviously gives us a skin-like finish. That is one of my main goals with makeup, is to do skin-like finishes, because let's face it, makeup is not skin, but you want it to look natural, and that's the best way to do it, to make sure that you're not letting it get heavy and you're not allowing it to dry out, which is why I like to buffer with a damp brush. If you're big on time, the amount of time you want to spend on buffering pretty much weighs out to the same amount of time you spent on applying your initial foundation. If it took you 3 to 5 minutes to apply it, you want to take 3 to 5 minutes to buff it out. Mainly because your end goal is for your face to look like your neck and your chest. Once you get that done, you know that you're doing a pretty good job. Now, I buffer in all of the same areas that I applied foundation initially, and that includes necks, face, eyes, wherever. Next, we're going to go on with our concealer. As you may notice, my concealer is pretty much the exact same color as my foundation. I like to use a nice wet, damp sponge at the tip to kind of blend it in. One of the main reasons that my concealer is so close to skin tone is because it is my initial layer of concealer. Yes, I layer products. I think I mentioned that already before, but just so you know, when I'm working on myself, I like to believe that a little goes a long way, so I layer my products. And I like my first layer to be natural. Another place I add concealer is my Cupid's bow. I like to make sure that I'm highlighting it, because once I overline my lips, that's going to pretty much frame my work for me. I blend that right on up into my under eye concealer. My next step is going to be my cream contour. I start at the top of my ear, and I like to bring that all the way in towards the inner side of my cheeks, and I'll do that now. That helps me shape my face, especially because I don't do a full contour on the perimeter of my face. Now, when blending out, I use the exact same buffering brush that I use to buff my foundation out with. I find that when a brush has a little bit of product on it, it helps the blend game to just go up a level, and honey, I like to blend. So I go ahead and use that brush, and it gives me a very, very clean look. As you can see, my contour starts at the top of my ear, but once I blend it out, it carries itself right up under my jawline. That's essential when framing your face, because if your contour is placed too low, it'll really just stretch your face out instead of highlighting your cheekbones. And the goal of contour is to create a high cheekbones. We're shaping the face, ladies. So remember, product placement is important. Now, when I contour my nose, I just pretty much do a very simple technique. I go down the side of my nose, aka the bridge of my nose, and I make sure that I also get the bottom of my nose so that it's giving me a clean cutoff, and I'm not worried about my nose looking like it's running into next year. Now, I make sure that when I blend that out, I'm going side to side and I'm not creating a rounded end, because if I do that, my nose will just look like I don't know, like I have a ballpoint at the end, and that's not the goal. Once my contour is buffered all the way out, I like to go in with my second layer of concealer. And prior to doing that, I add moisture to my face, because as I said before, if you don't add moisture before you lay your products, you will have a thick and cakey look. Or even worse, you'll be picking up product with your sponge instead of putting it down and allowing it to blend. My contour has set a nice perimeter for me to be able to follow. So once I add my highlight, I know that I need to stay within a certain guideline to layer it up instead of overlapping onto my other product. And as you can see, I'm pretty much going in a very similar motion to the first layer. I'm adding it all up under my eye and on top of my eyelids, while at the same time looking up to avoid creasing from happening. When you're layering products, creasing is a thing if you're not making sure that your motions are intact. Like I said, it's not really about the product, it's about the technique. So looking up just allows me to avoid creasing under my eyes. When adding the second layer of concealer to my nose, I like to make sure I'm pinching the head of my sponge. This ensures that I'm not interrupting the bridge of my nose that I've already laid out with my contour. I also carry it up right in between my brows just to make sure I don't have a unibrow effect. And then I take whatever products left on my sponge and continue to layer and blend out my concealer. Doing this just creates an even palette. When your face is even, especially when you're layering products, it allows for the next product to be able to go on smoothly. Whenever I'm layering product, I'm always thinking about the next layer. That's why I love a smooth finish. After I get that done, I go in with my buffering brush and I just kind of redefine my contour lines. A lot of times contour can get lost in highlight because highlight is so bright and it's such a contrast. But this step helps me to redefine it and also be able to just make sure my face is still framed. Then I take my initial foundation brush and just clean up whatever harsh lines I've created or whatever division I've made. The following step is super important, so I just like to make sure my concealer is super even. Next up is setting that concealer. A lot of people, especially makeup artists, refer to this as baking, but before you bake, you must set. As you can tell, I'm just pressing that loose powder all the way into my concealer and making sure that it's no creases, no cracks, and most importantly, no flashback. This step right here is going to be the answer to all of your flashback issues. It completely stops flashback. I'll say that again. This is the answer to whatever issue you're having with your flashback photography. If you're not familiar with flashback, it's that little ghostly effect that you get when you take a picture with flash on and you have on fresh makeup. This cancels that. After you finish setting, then you can bake. And you'll know you're ready to bake by the way that your product just sits on your skin instead of dissolving into it. Here's an example. I'm pressing, but the product is literally sitting on top. That's going to give me the brightening look I want without the flash. After doing that, you're ready to set your jawline. I use the exact same brand of loose powder, just in a deeper shade, so that I'm not getting, too much brightness, just a nice matte finish. I carry the product from the bottom of my earlobe to the parting of my lips. This gives me a very snatched jawline, and it just makes my contour pop. Now, for contour, I'm going to use one of my Juvias palettes and one of the eyeshadow shades. I'm not sure exactly which one, and it really sounds like I'm doing like a Juvia promo right now, but I love the way this contour sets, and I'm not getting paid to say this is my first YouTube video. I'm just giving you my honest opinion. The eyeshadow powder is buildable, it's blendable, and the color payoff is magnificent. It's not harsh, and it gives me a very warm finish. So honestly, contour powders are a thing of the past. Eyeshadow for the win. I like to do the same thing on the bridge of my nose. It just brings warmth to the center of my face, and it also gives me a nice clean finish. I mean, just look at it. Don't you love the color payoff? Moving right along, we're going to do a very similar technique for our blush. Again, another Juvias palette, and this time we're going to use it as a blush instead of a contour. Now, I have the exact same review, the blush color, and it's really all eyeshadow. I'm just calling it blush and contour powder. But the color is beautiful. It has a great payoff. I can add more or take it off as needed. And more importantly, it gives me a variety. As a woman of color, I'm sure you guys have also experienced it, but we don't really have a lot of blush in the blush department. We get stuck with the reds and the burgundies, and Juvia just gives me an array of colors to play with. As you can see, I kind of just add it all over my face because blush is the color on your face before lipstick. So it pretty much just goes everywhere. Next, we're going to go in with our foundation powder, aka our Mineralized skin finisher. And I'm going to use that powder to dust off whatever leftover powder I have on the lower end of my face and even on my forehead where I did not add powder. I just want to make sure that everything is set. An important rule in makeup is whatever liquid you use must be set with a powder. That is something that I swear by, and because of that, I like to use a mineralized skin finish to just set all over my face. It doesn't interrupt whatever I already have going on, and it's really a soft layer, not a real layer. This next step is super important. As you can see, I'm not dusting off my loose powder under my eye. I'm actually pressing it in. This is for all of my oily girls that can't afford to lose any mattifying power in our makeup. This is one of the tricks I use. Not only does it mattify the face, but it just helps to retain some brightness. And if you're like me, you love to have a bright under eye. I love the way that this matte finish comes off, and more importantly, I love how long my makeup lasts. It creates so much more longevity. I mean, I could just dance. I love it. Oh, well, I am dancing. Next, you want to go ahead and set that, aka saturate your face. After that, you want to make sure you're dry and prepare to close off that little trio right there with your favorite highlighter. Now, I like to use a fluff brush because it picks up so much product. I mean, look at that. I love highlighter, and it just looks so good when you're applying with the right brush. I like to use a dusting-like motion. I just kind of pick up the product and dust it on the apples of my cheek and then right there at the tail end of my brow. For some reason, when the sun hits that part of your face, it just helps it to look like you're an angel glowing, so I don't miss a beat. I love this highlighter, y'all. I mean, come on, who is she? Because she's for sure glowing. I also apply highlighter right to the tip of my nose. No, I don't carry it up and down the bridge of my nose. I apply it to the tip and then right there at the top below my brows. Lastly, I highlight my Cupid's bow, of course. That is going to allow my lips to have the best shape possible. And if you're dying to know whose highlighter it is, bam! It's Amrezy's. She has a collection with Anastasia that is flawless. Now you want to prepare your lips for lipstick. I'm just removing whatever Carmex or lip gloss I had on at the time to make sure my lips are as dry as possible but have moisture. Now, I did not show you guys how I line my lips because it is a full drawn out process, but after I finish overlining them, I clean up around my mouth. Following that, I add my favorite pink lipstick. And again, I like to layer makeup, so this is only the first layer of pink that I'm going to do. Once I add that, I like to go ahead and just blot. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with this term and this technique by now. Granted, it does look crazy, but the way it distributes lipstick is unmatched. After that first layer, I go in with a lighter pink and do the same blotting motion. This just helps my color to blend and come out flawless. Then I kind of add it to the line or, around the lines of my lips so nothing is harsh. I hate harsh lines. Once we get that blended out, we have a perfect pout. After that, I move along to the eyes. Although I do not do eyeshadow on my lids, I love under eyeshadow. It just does something to the eyes. It helps them pop, and more importantly, it just gives your face personality. So I'm just taking my favorite brick red or whatever color I am in the mood for that day, honestly, and I just go right up under my waterline with it. And I'm using just a windshield wiper motion to make sure that it's going all the way across and it's giving me a good color payoff. Then I highlight my tear ducts with my favorite highlighter. Again, this is Amrezy. She just is the bomb. Then I add mascara to my lower lash line. This is one of those things that you could really skip if you do fear that it'll get messy, but it's one of my favorite things because it makes my eyes pop. Now, if you know me, you know I like to add my moles, and this is usually part of my face where I'm adding my moles. This just gives your face personality, and more importantly, it just gives you a more realistic look. No one believes that I add moles to my face, so this is the way I do it. And I love to use my mascara. This is just a tip, ladies. It dries much quicker than liquid eyeliner, so I use a liquid eyeliner brush and apply my mascara to the ballpoint, and boom. Next up, my favorite. It's time for lashes. Now, For those of you who don't know, I only wear Pardon My Pretty mink lashes. They can be worn up to 30 times and I get about 30 wears out of it. I like to apply my lashes with a set of tweezers and I kind of just gently sit them down. I will also add the link to my lashes so that these could be delivered to your front door. Once I put my lashes on with tweezers, I press them out with my fingers. This just makes sure they're intact and they stay in place. And then after that, she's pretty much ready. I mean, honey, who are you, Marilyn Monroe? You're giving me like...
Is she famous?
Or maybe it's Pardon My Pretty. But don't forget to set. Now, as you know, I layer everything. So I layer my setting spray. That's my first layer. And then I go in with my second setting spray because, I mean, a girl can never be too prepared. You don't know what could happen. So double or nothing because this is a lifestyle, okay? I'm like drenched in setting spray, but I'm set, period. After that, I just kind of like to get my hair together. Obviously, it's already been curled a little bit, but for the most part, I just want you guys to see that you can get a flawless look in under 30 minutes, and it doesn't have to be extra.
Everybody has a different version of what's natural and what's no makeup looks. I don't like to consider this any of those things. This is just my everyday look. No, I don't wear makeup every day, but if I am made up, this is what you're gonna get. Super quick, super cute, super easy. And I'll also be doing I'll be trying to do a really good job about leaving all the product details below. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please write them and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys soon. I hope you enjoy the video.